Welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, oftentimes humorous look at the claim by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses that we are all living in their modern-day spiritual paradise. I'm your host, Stacy Bauman, former elder ministerial servant and a little guy raised as a witness in the 70s and 80s. As I do, a quick warning, trying to have some fun here, but we're trying to heal. Nothing said here is ever meant to offend anyone, no matter what point they're on their journey in and out of Jehovah's Witnesses. We're just spitting facts and my own brand of observation. We live in an age of insults. They're literally everywhere. They're in music. We got diss tracks. They're on video. Take a look at social media. And we have things even called memes that are often built, I think, in most cases to laugh or to insult somebody. They're so common that we oftentimes completely dismiss insults because they're literally everywhere. We make excuses for those hurling insults by pointing out that they just have an imperfect personality, or they just have a bad choice of words in some cases. Insults, however, are not a recent phenomenon. Neither is an insult restricted to any particular geographical region or peoples or culture. Insults are literally a part of the human experience. They're everywhere. From the article, The Psychology Behind Dissing by Mariana Saravia for Friday Magazine, we are asked the following, quote, "So what makes a person want to insult someone? When is an insult justified? What are the intrinsic reasons people insult others? Is the intent always to hurt? The psychology of insults is vast, spanning cultural subtexts and primary human emotion." End quote. Okay, so what say you? How do you personally feel about insults, or how do you feel when you've been insulted? The same article continues with, quote, "Is there any difference between ridicule, satire, and humiliation and blunt, straightforward insults?" According to Yannis Gabriel, professor of organizational theory at the University of Bath, there are overlaps, but what distinguishes insults is the aspect of big effect with little effort, since they take advantage of a weak point of the target. End quote. Yeah, we get it. Interesting, right? We're all guilty of this in so many ways. I'm guilty of it on this very silly little podcast. By default, it's not a secret how I personally feel about the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. With those very same 11 guys and their organization in mind, consider this from the same article. Quote, "In his paper, An Introduction to the Social Psychology of Insults in Organizations," available from the free online collection of the International Society for the Psychoanalytic Study of Organizations, Gabriel suggests that jokes are a good place to begin an investigation of insults. Like jokes, insults depend on timing and must touch a vital nerve. Like jokes, insults play on hidden desires and vulnerabilities. Like jokes, they can be highly imaginative and ingenious. The main difference between insults and jokes would seem to lie in their emotional content. Jokes release mirth, whereas insults unleash anger. End quote. We know, right? But I'm just kidding. I was just kidding. Yep. It's highly likely we've all done this in one way or another throughout our life. Come on, we got to be honest. Guilty as charged. Add the following to all things insults. Quote, "Hearing insults is like receiving a mini slap in the face, regardless of the precise context the insult is made in. This is the conclusion of a new paper published in Frontiers in Communication, according to author Susanna Bergelman." And with that, I say, ouch. Insults, small or big, they have an impact. They may be big, they may be tiny, we may blow it off, we may get angry. They give you insight into the very person that is actually insulting you. They're like, as this doctor said, a mini slap in the face. So with all of that considered, is it fair to say that Jesus Christ, the Son of Jehovah God, is the one and only person on earth, being perfect after all, and coming from the heavens, that actually never insulted anyone? Is that safe to say? Before you answer, give pause. Because if you're thinking, well, yeah, he's Jesus, he's perfect, well, you would be wrong. Jesus may have been the master of insults after all. Can you believe it? Consider this. In the book of Matthew alone, Jesus calls people names like fools, pigs, dogs, vipers, blind guides, hypocrites, tax collectors, and prostitutes and whores. He even tells his buddy Peter to get behind me, Satan. I mean, ouch. Sit down for this one. But Jesus Christ insulted people. I know. It's even weird to say. Matthew, the book of Matthew, that is, leads the way with 42 recorded insults, followed by Luke with 22, the book of Mark with 9, and John with only 5. Additionally, and it's a favorite, the book of Revelation, we find Jesus insulting people 9 times. This brings us to a grand total of 87 total insults from the mouth of Jesus Christ, current King of Jehovah's Witnesses. Ouch. Dude could hurl an insult when he needed to. So there is a bit of a conundrum when you crack open his book, the Bible, that he wrote, as we're told by the governing body, just for Jehovah's Witnesses. And then we read this from 1 Peter chapter 2, 21 through 23 of the New World Translation. We get, quote, in fact, to this course you were called, because even Christ suffered for you, leaving a model for you to follow his steps closely. He committed no sin, nor was deception found in his mouth. When he was being insulted, he did not insult in return. When he was suffering, he did not threaten, but he entrusted himself to the one who judges righteously. End quote. Well, wait a minute. Well, what of many contradictions in the Holy Book? I'm not going to go into a deep discussion of this. Context matters in every case. But needless to say, he did apparently leave a model for the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses to follow, as that verse says, closely. Why do I say that? Because the June 2025 JW broadcast features governing body icon Mark Sanderson throwing out jokes as well as a few insults to Jehovah's Witnesses. It looks like he took this counsel very seriously, by the way. And no, I'm not talking about how they insult people's intelligence. That is a weekly, if not daily, exercise in this organization. But as an example, Jehovah's Witnesses are getting ready to consider the book Lessons You Can Learn from the Bible beginning the week of July 14th, 2025. And for those not in the know, this is the modern-day version of the My Book of Bible Stories book. It's a kid's book. Nothing insulting there, right? Just baby food at the proper time. And trust me, I really believe in this one example, this will be a major mistake by the organization. As crazy as it sounds, a closer look at these stories are going to wake a few people up to how absurd they are. It's my sincere hope that Jehovah's Witnesses will leave their stresses at the Kingdom Hall door each week and give undivided attention to lessons number 5 and 6 of this publication. And if you're wondering what those are, you probably guessed it. It's a detailed look at my favorite superhuman guy, Noah. It leaves out a lot of details in these two little lessons, but I hope sometime at some point, ask a lot of questions. Put that brother on the spot while he's on stage. But okay, they insult people regularly. But back to the June 2025 broadcast. It isn't that kind of insult. In fact, it's much more. Most of this month's spiritual feast features the 157th Class of Gilead graduation. However, we're met by someone new to kick off the celebration. He is Brother Michael E. Banks, a helper to the teaching committee. And it's nice to see some diversity. And look, he's a good-looking guy, handsome guy, well-spoken, and the perfect new face of JW leadership. They got this one right for once. Some quick stats. 54 graduates from 28 countries, they tell us, set off to man book carts in exotic locations around the globe. The entire episode is almost 90 minutes long and features a few governing body speakers. Oh boy. They kick off the video with Gage Flegal. He's kind of the host guy, who I'm going to say right here and now is rapidly becoming the aw shucks guy on the governing body. He's aw shucks. He's that guy. He has cheesy jokes, and he's officially the governing body crier. He's the guy that gets emotional sometimes. Yeah, and I'm guessing at that point, he's just the emotional balance guy in those 11 fellas. He does seem to have a heart. That's my take. And they march him out to pull the heartstrings, and it seems like they're doing it more often now. I don't think any of the other guys can pull that off. But, well, Gage gives it his best shot by looking like he is getting choked up several times and about to cry. I get it. I probably would have liked this guy when I was a JW. He seems like a genuine dude. Don't know anything about him. By the way, he's younger than me, but he's going to heaven. I'll see a past episode. His talk is nothing new. That is until he starts kind of what I would say is an infomercial to the graduates. He talks to them about all the great stuff the governing body has been rolling out for decades. He talks about all their video content and how fantastic their videos are. I can't imagine why he's pushing this message. He props up their cool message. And the music. He props up the music. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that no one is singing, you remember this one, If You Could See What I See. Remember that song and video? It's a music video sung to God's people by a book cart. Go watch it. If this is news to you, go search for the video, If You Could See What I See, sung to Jehovah's Witnesses by a book cart. And I'm not kidding. It's still on the site. But if you're ever having a bad day and you need to laugh, go watch this. And I found myself thinking, gosh, Gage, you want to prop up all your music and your videos. I'm sure this one will cheer up those missionaries when they're alone in war-torn lands as they climb into bomb shelters or they go out looking for clean water. I'm sure these videos are going to really encourage these graduates. Oh boy. But then Gage does something that made me laugh out loud. And it's not an accident. You have to be paying attention. I encourage everyone to pay attention. He says, quote, well, the Watchtower publications go back to 1950. The Awake publications go back to 1970. We have 1,815 Watchtower magazines available. We have 1,011 Awake magazines available just in the JW library. End quote. People. Oh, Gage. Let the sins of omission begin. Dare I say, the insults. For anyone that has been associated with Jehovah's Witnesses for any amount of time, maybe that's not true for younger generations, but any longer amount of time, they all know that the publications of this organization go much farther back than the 1950s and the Watchtower. They go back to the 1800s. In fact, in a twist of irony and one of many insults in this broadcast, you guys remind Jehovah's Witnesses all the time how long you've been around. You constantly mention Chuck Russell and Judge Joe Rutherford, but you only seem to do it when it's convenient, right? And well, you and your 10 best friends have made the decision to not include access to those publications before 1950 in the JW library. Most of us know, and I can't imagine why you don't want Jehovah's Witnesses digging into watchtowers prior to 1950. When you get a look at the graduation photo of these missionaries, it's absolutely glaring how young they all are. Most of the people graduating in this 157th class that think, thanks, Gage, I'll go back and read Watchtowers all the way back to 1950. Most of them won't even remember when the guys before them said this from the Golden Age magazine, now The Awake, April 7th, 1926, page 438. They said this, quote, "If any overzealous doctor condemns your tonsils, go and commit suicide with a case knife. It's cheaper and less painful." End quote. Golden Age, The Awake, April 7th, 1926, page 438. Now, why doesn't the governing body include access to the Awake's prior to 1970 in the Watchtower Library? Why not? I can't imagine. Divine counsel about killing yourself with a case knife because you have a sore throat. Now, why would the Watchtower Library not include these references? And you'll note that it was in 1926, this particular quote, a full 7 years after Jesus chose these guys to speak for him to the rest of mankind. But I can't find this article in the library? Okay, I don't know why. I can't imagine. And so, the lying, the deception, and the insults begin in the June 2025 JW broadcast. All the while, we all know 99.9% of people that'll take the time to watch this thing won't even see it. And King Flegal, I love saying that, by the way, I feel like he should be a Shrek character, just sort of leaves out those details by saying that the Awake, which started out as the Golden Age, is only available back to 1970. Sounds like a long time ago, right? He continues in this talk to talk about the rich food and what he calls meat Jesus is providing the planet in these last days. For example, Jesus himself is the executive producer of the Caleb and Sophia videos for kids, where children of Jehovah's Witnesses are encouraged to send Gage and his 10 friends their ice cream money. Gage blathers on with stuff we've all heard before, but then he introduces all of mankind to something I still just can't believe. I can't believe this. I'm sorry, things hit me different. Maybe you let us slide off your back. I just can't get over this. This silly show cannot do justice to what I'm about to share, so I'm going to encourage everyone to take the time to go watch it if interested. We are introduced to a talk show segment. Yeah, a poor man's Oprah, Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, Dr. Phil, you name it. Unfortunately, not nearly enough Jerry Springer in this episode. But yes, a Jehovah's Witness talk show, if you haven't seen this thing, called The Inside Story. It's complete with an acoustic guitar theme song opening, shots of stagehands, grips, audio engineers, the host laughing as he looks at his cue cards, a host walking out on stage to a cheering live studio audience. I'm seriously looking at Channel 12 at 4 p.m. weekdays back in the day. This is a talk show. They literally copied the afternoon time slots of talk shows. How did I miss this before? I know it's been around. Is this old news? And all I could think watching this guy, it was the moment he walked out on stage and the audience just cheered for him. I'm your host. What has happened to this religion? What has happened? Past episodes of The Inside Story, there is even a musical guest, just like a late night talk show. I kept expecting to see Arsenio Hall come walking out and get the crowd going, getting whooped up. The show opens with them introducing Jehovah's Witness guests. You know, you gotta be in good standing to be on this talk show. The host stands up to greet them, kind of like Jimmy Fallon. They come walking from off stage. He stands up and offers a handshake and a hug. There are shots of the studio audience cheering, and out comes that guest. Where have I been? Is this new? I guess I haven't taken the time to watch this before. Is this Jesus' version of Inside Edition or maybe Entertainment Tonight? I got to tell you, this piece of this broadcast was insane to watch. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. They copied everything from a worldly talk show that you would see in the afternoon time slot in TV. And this brother, the guest, comes out. He gets a big greeting. Then both men take their seats for a jolly, happy little interview. And all the while, I guess I'm asking the question, who out here listening right now remembers stuff like this from the Watchtower of September 15th, 1978, pages 18 through 20? We are told, quote, similarly, worst word ever, how could we constantly put ourselves forward and highlight our own accomplishments and experiences? This could be discouraging to those listening to us. They might begin to feel that they have done very little in comparison. Our bragging and boasting would only tear others down and distract from the glory that should be given to Jehovah God. How unloving that would be. It would be far better to minimize our own role. We are merely slaves of God, and to him should go all the credit and praise for growth in the Christian congregation. Humility will prevent us from having an inflated opinion of ourselves and will restrain us from trying to impress others with supposed importance. End quote. Watchtower, 1978, September 15th. And I gotta say, it looks like all of those concepts are nothing more than old light. Scrape them off the table and toss them in the garbage. That's old light. Because we got people in the spotlight on their own talk show. The Inside Story, where hand-picked Jehovah's Witnesses get under the bright lights and tell the rest of us all about their accomplishments. Everything they've done so well. I kept waiting for the brother hosting to stand up and give away a free home Bible study to everyone in the audience, or maybe a free trip to Bethel to everyone here today, just like Ellen used to do back in the day. But then I remembered, oh no, the audience, they're all ringers. They're already Jehovah's Witnesses. So what in the hell is this? What is this that we are watching in this broadcast? What happened to the May Watchtower of 2019, page 25, paragraph 14, where these same governing body guys said, quote, however, the Bible does not teach that we should elevate ourselves above others. Rather, it states, do nothing out of contentiousness or out of egotism, but with humility consider others superior to you. End quote. And I'm watching the Inside Story, and I'm guessing the studio audience wasn't feeling nearly as special as the selected people invited onto the stage of the Inside Story. It's absolutely insane to watch this. This religion has completely changed. It's unrecognizable to any of us that were a part of it 30, 40 years ago. But back to the Inside Story. The first brother comes out, the audience goes wild. He's been traveling the Amazon. Just a little bit more exciting, I might add, than circling the block in a minivan for weeks on end here in the United States, which is what preaching always was. They show off their spending. They show off that they're spending donated money with a very well done video. You can see it looks eerily similar to something you'd see on the National Geographic Channel. Is that still a thing, by the way? We get a tour of the Amazon region, because apparently none of us know where it is. Drone shots, animals, a geography lesson. A truly interesting use of donated money, considering that according to reports from the World Bank and Bloomberg, a substantial portion of the population near the Amazon lives below the poverty line, with many experiencing extreme poverty, according to the report. But hey, they can always find some Wi-Fi and watch The Inside Story to see a romanticized version of the land they find themselves sick and starving in every day. This organization has zero self-awareness. Zero. It's all propaganda about them. And how a Jehovah's Witness in the audience isn't asking why they're wasting money on these movies instead of actually helping the people of the Amazon, I've got no clue. Books and magazines are hard to eat. Have you ever tried it? Not very tasty. But we are assured that the governing body is really helping people in the Amazon region. Look at our video. All the video shots, by the way, of the kids just made me sick. It just broke my heart. It breaks my heart. Oh, you're starving, can't find clean water here in the Amazon? Here, take a tract. It'll all be better soon. That's it. That's what we're seeing on the Inside Story. After this brother goes on and on about how great his life is in the Amazon, out comes the next couple. Yeah, married people. We need a well-rounded idea of how the governing body is using people, right? So here's a married couple. These two are preaching in Honduras. This is great romanticized fodder for any young Jehovah's Witness watching. The couple talk about meeting, even dating, and dodging hurricanes together. I mean, it's just like Indiana Jones. Being a missionary is like Indiana Jones. It's the usual stuff we've all come to know in all Jehovah's Witness experiences. Everything is wonderful. The people are wonderful. The food is wonderful. But something is missing, as in the return on investment for being there. Yeah, you hear about how great the food is, how happy they are to dodge hurricanes and all that stuff. But I had the question, are they dragging people into the organization in Honduras? We never really find out. We just get some laughs and everybody's happy and you should be like us, including the wife telling the audience at one point that her husband can't cook. The studio audience laughs along, and I'm sure there was a shepherding call scheduled instantly to counsel that sister about embarrassing her spiritual head on stage and how she needs to have a quiet and mild spirit. I'm sure that happened, right? Blah, blah, blah. The interview continues. Out comes the next couple, and they're from the Philippines. More of the same. The highlight is them telling the audience how hard it was to eat a whole fish. The wife even talking about the eyeballs on the fish for breakfast, by the way, and how the loving brothers anonymously got them a present, and it was a hamburger and French fries. I'm telling the truth. Go watch it. The audience laughs because that's what we do on talk shows. There's probably a guy right off camera, laugh for Jehovah sign or something. I don't know. But everyone laughs and the distraction begins. It's all so much fun. Be like us. Go to the Philippines, Honduras, the Amazon. The brother in the Philippines even makes jokes about hanging out in the coffee shops in the Philippines. In other words, he's just like Jehovah's Witnesses back here in the United States, where the highlight of preaching every weekend is the coffee break after you've already spent a grueling hour of standing in front of a book cart and slipping birdcage liner under welcome mats around your neighborhood. Grueling. Time for a coffee break. So he slips in a coffee break joke. Not kidding. Welcome to The Inside Story. Cue the video highlights of the Philippines. Each country gets a video movie and the reminder that this organization is spending millions on stock drone footage, overhead shots of cities they preach in. They even have video shots of shanty towns in the Philippines, all while the brother talks about his coffee breaks. Because there's never a bad time for the governing body to highlight poor people living in poverty. You know, it reinforces the idea and it proves that times really are hard here in the last days. That's why we're there. Do they show us the money they give back to help these people in the video? No, nope. The video ends with a voiceover from a woman saying, quote, "The Philippines are a preaching paradise," end quote. Really? Seconds after showing a shanty town that looked like it was miles long, miles wide, everything with this guy's and this organization, everything comes down to a paradise. It's a word found 4 times in the Bible, all 4 times referring to heaven. But don't let that shake you up. Everything's a paradise. A paradise where the only aid this organization offers to people in poverty in places such as the Amazon, Honduras, and the Philippines, it isn't medicine. It isn't food. It isn't clean water. It's not even a path out of the poverty. But what they offer them is some of their literature. A magazine or book. Literature claiming the world will soon be a paradise, and all the other people who didn't take that literature because they were out looking for clean water or how to feed their kids, well, they're going to be killed by the very guys that sent them to this country. The very guys, the governing body, they'll be in heaven killing them. It's all paradise, folks. It's all paradise. Insanity. Insulting. We got jokes. They're insults. And with that, this episode of The Inside Story comes to an end with the studio audience clapping and hugs all around. Everyone on stage is so happy they're up and hugging, just like at the end of Saturday Night Live every week. Seeing is believing. Stunning. Stunning that I missed this. It's absolutely amazing how they emulate televangelism, talk shows, everything they can to propagate their messaging. With that in the books during this June 2025 broadcast, I bring you now to the main event. These missionaries on stage, this class of 157th missionary Gilead class, they've given up their lives. They've given up having children. They've given up having a career. They've given up their youth, and they've given up so much more. And with all that sacrifice, it has all led to this guy, governing body member Mark Sanderson. He's going to reinforce that they have made a great decision to serve him and his 10 best friends. And since we are talking insults, by the looks of Mark, I'm sorry, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not eating the same fish and rice like those missionaries are in the Philippines that we just talked to. He's looking healthy. Mark's eating well. And as a guy that can no longer see his six-pack himself, I can say this, whether it's insulting or not. He's looking like he's not missing many meals. King Flegal introduces King Mark, who will speak to the graduating group on the theme, quote, "The desirable thing in a man is blank," end quote. Oh, the anticipation. I was on the edge of my seat. What is the desirable thing in a man? What is it? Is it to be over 6'3", ladies? You won't date us unless we're okay? What could it be? I mean, early on, King Mark lets us know he's going to reveal what that desirable thing is, and I'll just say it's very anticlimactic. It's loyal love. Okay, it's loyal love. It's not a sports car. Sort of like the love they show those people in poverty that they just showed us on video, or the Jehovah's Witnesses rotting in prisons in Eritrea at the time of this graduation. Because, they're here giving some talks, and they're also busy in New York building a movie studio. Or in some of the Bethelites' cases, they're dressing up like Abraham and Moses at their Bible museum so kids can talk to them. I don't want to dissect this whole thing. It's the typical drivel you get from these talks and from the governing body. He immediately takes us back to Israel. Where else can you go? And biblical characters to prove that Jehovah takes care of people. Okay. And all I can think of is, well, that's nice. He took care of Enoch, Abraham, and my guy Noah. He's not quite as interested in taking care of children in danger from predators at your local kingdom halls. Apparently, he looks the other way on that one. Then Jehovah, of course, hands that loyal love you speak of, Mark, off to the legal team in New York. It's a very interesting arrangement. But he goes on his standard JW talk, complete with bullet points on why these people, these graduates, are all benefiting from loyal love. He came prepared with 3 points. The first, who were the people that showed you loyal love? He asked the audience. Was it mom and dad, the elders, that special older sister? He says, quote, "Now is the time to look through the photo album of your heart," end quote. Okay. He says he wants them to do this so that they stay humble and modest. Thanks, Mark. Don't see the irony? It's okay. Here come the low-key insults. Right after saying to the audience that they need to be modest and humble, Mark Sanderson does what only Mark Sanderson can do. He literally can't help himself. After enforcing or reinforcing the thought that you all need to be modest and humble, he relates an experience about so I'm going to keep it together, about how he was thinking about a couple that was helping them with the court cases in Russia. He, governing body member Mark Sanderson, he just decided to text them out of the blue. The reply was nothing short of miraculous. Just like when Noah stumbled on that king cobra and put him on his shoulder and brought him back to the ark. Not just one, but two. The couple responds to this text, and they do it emotionally. Oh, they're so emotional. You see, Mark says that the couple text him back immediately, and that his message landed while the both of them were on their knees, praying to Jehovah, begging him for some encouragement. That's a quote. As he says, quote, "When suddenly we heard ding," he then says, "Prove yourselves to be like your heavenly Father by demonstrating loyal love." What did he tell the couple? How did he help them when they were praying and he decided to text them? We don't know, but he did. You see, Mark, after talking about modesty and humility, is a living example of what it means to be modest and humble. This couple was discouraged in Russia and they were praying to the Almighty Creator. And Mark Sanderson just decided to text them because Mark is how Jehovah answers prayers. Do you see the message? Do you get it? How humble of you to tell us this, Mark. Sort of like that time your boss Jesus, during that famous Sermon on the Mount teaching thing, said, quote, "Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing," end quote. You remember that one? You remember that one, King Sanderson? It's at Matthew chapter 6 and verse 3 in your book. But not you. Instead of relating this as an anonymous story of a couple getting a random text that encouraged them, you followed Jesus' counsel on humility while giving and making sure all Jehovah's Witnesses knew that Jehovah only uses you, Mark Sanderson, to answer people's prayers when they're begging. Forget that left hand, right hand thing. People need to know how loving you are, Mark. Thanks for the experience. Forever immortalized on Jehovah's Witness broadcasting. What a humble guy. And I'm sure when one of these missionaries is sent to prison in a foreign land or has nothing to eat and they're really discouraged, they'll be able to text you again, right, Mark? Will you be sharing the phone numbers for the other 10 kings in New York with these missionaries listening to this experience? Are you going to give them your phone numbers? Hey, they're taking us to an African jail, King Mark, for handing out your magazines. Ding! Sorry to hear that. Pray to Jehovah. Ding! It's so incredibly insulting to watch this guy in action. It's unbelievable. But it sure gets a Jehovah's Witness thinking that they're loved by these guys. The governing body is moved by Jehovah to answer texts out of nowhere. We were just begging God and you text us. What are the chances? Unbelievable. Couldn't have been anonymous. Had to say it came from him. But then he moves on to his second reason to have loyal love. He says, "You brothers going abroad will be overseers. Be loving to the people in your congregation." He then goes on a diatribe about how we are all drawn to people like us, people with similar likes, dislikes, personalities, and more. And the examples he uses were hilarious. For example, he says, quote, "If you work in the service department, you're drawn to the circuit overseers, the missionaries, the special pioneers, the desk men. They're all wonderful," end quote. Seeing is believing. He then whips out his cartoon voice to make a point and says, quote, "If you're a translator, oh, you love the translators. That brother helped to translate the Bible. My," end quote. Go watch. It's unbelievable. Condescending, insulting, silly. What he says next, though, is so intellectually insulting, I was kind of chilled by the audience laughter. He says, quote, "If you work in the legal department, you even love the lawyers." The crowd laughed, by the way. Then he says, "Sorry, we all love the lawyers. We love you all," end quote. Pause. I hit the pause. I stopped the video for a minute. In that moment, I had the strangest visceral reaction. Almost like I took a trip through time, all the way back to my childhood, to my first talk on stage, the nerves of knocking on my first door out in the preaching work, missing out on the birthdays and holidays and my classmates laughing at me, giving up school, getting baptized, marrying too young, getting divorced, being an elder, my first public talk. It's like it all went through my head and I felt the blood rush through my head. All within seconds. All the romantic notions I had about being a loyal servant to Jehovah eating acai bowls with Noah and David in paradise, all to arrive at this moment with Mark Sanderson. Lawyers? Lawyers. Why the hell does Jesus Christ need lawyers? He parted the Red Sea. He killed 185,000 Assyrians with one angel. He walked on water. He made the earth. Lawyers? Legal department. I don't know why this hit me like it did. But this organization, an organization representing the same guy in 4 books of the gospel in the Bible, has a legal department and it needs lawyers. And we're making jokes about it. They openly admit it. And well, it's even funny to them. And I don't know why in this particular JW broadcast this hit me strangely, but it did. We're actually openly talking about the fact that we need lawyers. This isn't a theocracy, this is a corporation. None of which is taught in the same Bible that had Joshua knocking down entire cities by blowing trumpets. And how a thinking Jehovah's Witness can sit there and listen to him talk about lawyers and legal departments and still believe that the same Jesus in the Gospels is running the show is absolutely staggering to me. Dare I say it, it's insulting. Jehovah's Witnesses have been duped. If you're a Jehovah's Witness here listening, look, huge hugs. I get it. I was there the vast majority of my life. But you've been duped. The guy who created the solar system shouldn't need lawyers or a legal department to oversee his business here on earth. But here we are with God's organization. And Mark thinks it's all so funny. So funny. He has more jokes. Get ready. He goes on a rant about loyal love. And what about those people who we don't have an instant connection with? Those other faithful Jehovah's Witnesses we just don't jive with? His question. And then this whole thing takes a very interesting turn. He says, quote, "Let me be far more clear. What about all the faithful people that are just plain annoying?" End quote. The crowd kind of low-key, they kind of giggle a little bit, almost as if they're unsure about what is going on, or if they should laugh. Then he says, quote, "You know who you are," end quote, and the crowd roars with laughter. He continues by saying, quote, "People who won't take your phone calls." Then he shoots a look off stage at someone we can't identify, but the crowd can see him and they laugh even louder. He says, quote, "Well, what are we going to do with those people?" Well, we have an answer. Because to be quite frank with you, the Bible is filled with annoying people. End quote. What is going on here? A member of the governing body just called Jehovah's Witnesses, a subsection of them, annoying. If you haven't seen this, go watch. And look, from the get-go, I know he's trying to be funny. I used to give public talks. I get it. And I know he's also correct. There are a ton of annoying people inside Jehovah's Witnesses, not the least of which is Mark Sanderson himself. But here we are. In 2025, the June broadcast, governing body members are admitting that there are many Jehovah's Witnesses that really annoy them. I immediately thought, that is probably everyone that has ever written a letter asking for clarification on their latest round of New Light. Or maybe those folks that used to write in for questions from the readers. Oh, those people annoyed them. But look, I don't want to hyperfix on his comments more than I need to. Being annoyed with others is something we all experience. I'm annoyed with this guy. And before King Mark can say it himself, he's just an imperfect guy too. So he has that as an out. But I find the fact that one of Jesus' chief shepherds here on planet Earth, one of his leaders, is openly admitting that many Jehovah's Witnesses are annoying. They're annoying to him. I wanted to ask him if he was around in the 1970s knocking on doors and interrupting people's breakfast, Lucky Charms, and cartoons just so he could give them one of their magazines. Let me tell you, you want to see annoying? Those people hated us. But we were there. But why is one of Jesus' main guys telling his people, yeah, you're annoying? That the Bible, a book we're told is frozen Holy Spirit, remember that one back in the day, is filled with annoying people. Why is he saying this? Whether he speaks truth or not, does it really need to be said? From the highest spiritual shepherds in the land? Do they need to reinforce that you people annoy us sometime? You're annoying the hell out of us at times. Consider this interesting fact. From the Guardian newspaper article of May 2024, we're told this, quote, annoyance is probably the most widely experienced and least studied of all human emotions, wrote Joe Palca and Flora Lichtman in their 2010 book, Annoying, The Science of What Bugs Us. There is no department of annoying studies or annoying geologists. I can't even say it. Many psychologists consider it a subset of anger rather than a pure emotion in itself, and thus harder to study. MC Flux, a psychologist, neuroscientist, and science communicator from the University of Colorado Boulder, describes annoyance as moderately negative and moderate arousal. Ultimately, he believes humans want to maintain homeostasis, to feel as if they are safe, stable, and in control. Emotions, particularly high arousal ones, often lead to actions that we hope will get us there. Similarly, annoyance serves a purpose, says Flux. It's basically a flag saying something is wrong and I should probably do something about it. End quote. Well now, the governing body finds some Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe even each other, annoying. They even find people in the Bible annoying. Is that a red flag? Are Jehovah's Witnesses' brains telling them something is wrong and then questioning the governing body's latest rounds of demands? They annoy Jesus guys who can always solve the problem but tell you to shut up, get in line, or be labeled an apostate. Now, why wouldn't a Jehovah's Witness feel safe, stable, and in control, as Dr. Flux states? He's with the finest shepherds on earth in this organization. But these shepherds looked you in the eye and admitted that at times you annoy them. But King Mark doesn't stop with telling Jehovah's Witnesses they might be annoying. He takes the audience back to Genesis 18 and shows us that, wow, Abraham was a pretty annoying guy too. He points to Abraham asking Jehovah to save lives. Save lives. All the way down to just 10 precious souls in Sodom and Gomorrah. And he then says, quote, now that's annoying, end quote. Wow. I want to go down a road explaining how the things we say are almost always a reflection of how we feel about something or someone, but I'm going to spare you because you all know that. Nonetheless, Brother Sanderson apparently thinks begging for people's lives was annoying. He thinks that was annoying. Let that sink in. He wasn't one of the people set to catch a fireball in Sodom, so I guess it's annoying to ask for those that were? Should we not save them? I'm guessing this guy's going to be a real ton of fun to deal with at Armageddon, the big A. Don't annoy him with questions as he aims a lightning bolt at your kids. Begging for mercy like Abraham did? Well, don't bother with Mark. He has a mass genocide to oversee, and your kids, well, they're pretty annoying. He doesn't have any. As are you, by the way, for even asking to save them. This guy and his 10 best friends, they don't put a lot of thought into things. Not at all. They just want you to know you're annoying, and so is Abraham for begging to save people. How annoying. Even with lives on the line. But it doesn't matter because King Mark gets some laughs from the crowd on the JW broadcast. Not a lot of thought, though. Not a lot of thought. Wanted to knock on his skull a little bit. He goes on to say his fellow original governing body member, you remember, the Apostle Peter, he was a pretty annoying guy too. He makes jokes about the transfiguration and Peter, quote, wanting to go camping with tents. And Jesus must have been really annoyed with Peter. He also denied Christ 3 times, and that was annoying too, according to Mark. All the while, I'm thinking he doesn't seem to realize he might be seeing Peter real soon when they get to heaven. And the apostles were the original governing body. So is it possible for Mark himself to be pretty annoying himself, just like Peter? Since he's on the 2025 governing body, you see where I'm going here? Not a lot of thought from these guys as they look to entertain, brainwash, and stall the lives of millions of people. They don't think it through. All in all, this was wild stuff in my opinion. I found myself wondering what keeps Mark Sanderson up at night. He ties it up by saying, be loving overseers, and the irony, the irony. No one is more feared in the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses than the overseers, the elders. No one. If judicial meetings were fun and they were filled with loyal love, as he's talking about here, why are people scared to death of them? See past episodes. Insane. But the crowd claps and they laugh. He moves on to point 3 on loyal love. People in their future countries also need their love. That's point 3. I'm not going to dissect this because what he said prior just seems to make this just a real empty part of his talk because he's clearly lost his way on points 1 and 2. He doesn't understand loyal love. I don't think he understands intellect. He just doesn't think. He does, however, recognize people in these countries are poor, they're hungry, they're in poverty, they're enduring natural disasters, and as he says, they're even in prison. What's the solution according to Mark in this talk? Well, the solution according to Mark is tell them that you love them. Be a loving overseer. That'll fix their problem. That's it. He literally lists off poor, hungry, natural disasters, prison. What's his solution? Be loving to them. Be nice. That's it, folks. That's the whole talk. If you're a missionary sitting in the graduating class as he addresses you and all the witnesses watching JW broadcasting, the summation is, just be a nice guy. Be loving. Oh, they're in prison? Well, that sucks. I want you to know I love you. Say a prayer. I might text you. It's unreal. The JW broadcast wraps up with each graduate walking the stage and getting their diploma. Again, a worldly practice, not sure what it has to do with being spiritual, but it looks like a college or high school graduation. And then, of course, they announce their final destination, their countries. It's really long, it's drawn out, and frankly, I just found it weird. But then, in the ultimate display of humility and modesty, Out marches a guy we've never seen before, at least I haven't, Brother Sebastian Stock. No clue he's part of the class. And he wants to read a letter from the graduating class to the governing body. And this is just mind-blowing to me. I don't know how a Jehovah's Witness doesn't see this, even when you've been absolutely drowning in cognitive dissonance. But what amounts to a talk is really him reading a letter. It's a giant thank you letter to Jehovah. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's not to Jehovah. He starts the letter with the words, quote, to the governing body, end quote. He proceeds to thank the governing body for learning about the Bible and includes comments like this, quote, your self-sacrificing spirit encourages us to imitate your example. We are grateful Jehovah uses you to instruct us in the good way in which we should walk. End quote. I want to laugh at this, folks, but this is chilling. This is chilling. This organization has gone full scale, full speed into full worship of the governing body. He says they taught them the Bible. He cites their spirit of self-sacrifice. Can we get some examples? Like what? The text Mark Sanderson sent those people? Was that a sacrifice? Did he have to pay for the data on his phone plan? What sacrifice? But more than anything, as you watch this brother read this letter of thanks to the governing body, you notice that someone is completely missing from his big thank you. See if you can spot it. From the Watchtower of 1987, August 1st, page 10, paragraph 1. I don't know. The governing body said this, quote, Jehovah's Witnesses recognize no man as their leader. Wait a minute. Brother Stock is saying thank you. Wait a minute. Back to the quote. Their organizational structure has no equivalent of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, the patriarchs of the Eastern Orthodox churches, or the leaders of other churches and sects of Christendom. Their allegiance is to Jesus Christ, the head of the Christian congregation, who stated, your leader is one, the Christ, end quote. And with that, I'm going to ask, are you sure? Because Jesus isn't even mentioned, much less thanked. None of his self-sacrifices are mentioned. And for this letter of thanks to the governing body, he doesn't even thank Jesus for setting up the NITO organization to teach the planet the Bible. The class of missionaries graduating in the June 2025 JW broadcast completely forgets to thank the guy they claim leads this organization, but penned a letter and were sure not to forget to give the governing body the spotlight that evidently inspires them to now go to other countries and eat rice, fish, and not change their underwear for days because they don't have washing machines out in the jungle. If you are a Jehovah's Witness, how do you account for this oversight? Why were the governing body thanked up one side and down the other in this letter you can see on video, but not Jesus himself? The reference in the 87 Watchtower says you don't have a pope. You're not like the other churches. You don't have leaders. You don't follow men like all the other guys. And to that I say, are you sure? And if you think I'm being harsh, I'm going to ask you a super simple question that you can walk away and think about. Who was it that recently gave men permission to grow hair follicles on certain parts of their body? Was that Jesus? Guy can't even get a thank you. You get the idea. For a kid raised in this religion who had no clue who the governing body even was until I met in person Guy Pearce back in the day and he took a liking to me, this dynamic continues to shock me. Jehovah's Witnesses are flat brainwashed. This little throwaway June broadcast and this graduation talk and all that, it all looks like a throwaway. When in fact, when you just scratch the surface, it's tragic what has happened here. But more than anything, am I alone in saying that after watching this, I feel insulted? Not just insulted for the wasted years or that they now have a cool afternoon talk show. I'm not even insulted that Mark Sanderson is telling some Jehovah's Witnesses that they're annoying, just like Abraham. No. Watching this is an exercise in having your intelligence insulted. How are they getting away with this so blatantly? According to Psychology Today, the article The Psychology of Insults from November 2016, we're told, quote, the purpose of a put-down is to reduce someone else in the imaginary status hierarchy, end quote. The June 2025 JW broadcast is a masterclass in the governing body and their imaginary status hierarchy. The only power these men have is the power you give them. Every Jehovah's Witness needs to be more annoying and ask a very simple question. Why am I allowing these guys to insult me? I want to thank you for joining me this week. Wherever you may be well.